Hello! So, yes, I am in a car. I am currently waiting for my sister to get out of speech. Sorry, not speech, flute. We came from speech, hence my outfit. And I'm done with school, so I'm bored. So I thought I'd film a video. This is probably going to go on for like 5 minutes, and then I'll have to finish it up at home because she's coming out any minute. But anyways, so I came from speech and debate today, and so I kind of want to talk a little bit about speech and debate. Just what it is, kind of what it's like. It's honestly so much fun. I really benefited from doing it. So this is kind of like an advertisement for doing speech and debate. There is speech and debate throughout the entire nation. It's nationwide. It's called National Christian Forensics and Communication Association, or NCFCA. Yeah, I think I defined all of that right. But it's NCFCA, and that's our league. It's honestly so enlightening about our world today. And I also want to do this because, there was a presidential debate last week, and as a debater, I am very much involved in politics. So it was really interesting to sort of see that and see on the global, what people think a debate is. Because debate is actually very different from what they were doing on television. That's more of just like a bickerment, as my friends and I would call it. A bickerment. So in this video, we're just going to go over a little bit of what debate is. Hello, I'm back. So it's been a week and a half since I filmed the beginning part of this video. I filmed it after debate, and debates are more on Mondays and it's Wednesday, so a week later. But anyway, I thought I'd just pick up where I left off. Now, you have to have some forgiveness for me because I'm probably not going to my voice sounds weird right now because I'm not feeling very well. Don't worry, it's not corona, it's just a cold. I've had it since Sunday, which stinks. I've had to miss debate, Bible study, band, piano, and now today is the day where I have nothing but work, and I am planning on going to work because I'm not contagious anymore. Hope that'll still work out. Anyway, back to the subject. So I started speech and debate when I was 13 in 8th grade. And I hated it. I am a very social person, and I love sharing myself with other people, hence YouTube. But debate is like a whole nother level of scary. People say that public speaking is like the number one fear of the United States, and I believe it. Because you're literally putting yourself out there as standing up for an idea that people don't agree with, and you have to convince them to agree with them. And if they don't, they can be rather harsh. Ballots are scary, especially when you go over them and you look and you see exactly what the judge was thinking. I had a round against one of the biggest competitors in my region, and I legitimately thought the judge was on my side because she was smiling. Turns out she hated me. She didn't like my presentation. She didn't like my facts. Even though I did pretty well, there was no way I was going to win that round, nor did I win her over. So that makes it really hard to debate because you're literally putting yourself out in a position where people are going to scrutinize you and they're going to judge you, hence the word judging. But here's why you should do it. Because it teaches you how to be a better person. My speech has gotten a lot better in the sense that I can talk about things without saying words like Doesn't mean I don't say those words, because I definitely do. But when I am trying not to, I found the word, control. Another thing debate does is it really helps you personify yourself. A lot of the good debaters have their own persona that they use when they're in their rounds. This is varies based on your personal, like, what you want. Do you want to be known as more of aggressive debater or kind debater? There are two big debaters that had these huge personas in my region. We're going to call them Sam and Kevin. Yeah, that'll work. Sam and Kevin. And now Sam was a very aggressive debater. He was like a bulldog. He would go into the round and he would have his facts and he would throw them at you and he would overwhelm you with amount of definitions, examples, everything he could, arguments, everything he could throw at you, he would. And then he would count, if you didn't address even one of them, he would bring it back up and like, she didn't address this, she has to lose the round because it's a dropped argument. And so that was kind of the way he did it. People were scared to debate him. He's one of the top debaters in our region because he would legitimately overwhelm you and you were just, even though he was the nicest person in real life, you couldn't beat him. Kevin had a different approach. He was known as kind of the nicest debater. He was the friendliest. He had a commanding voice, but he didn't use it to overpower. He was one of the tallest guys in our club, and even though Sam debated him countless times, Sam couldn't win against him because Kevin had this overwhelming sense of control just coming by being friendly. And he owned that persona, and there was no way that anybody could take anything from him because if you do, you look like a bulldog and you look like a jerk. And that's why Kevin, sorry, I'm trying not to say their actual names, and that's why Kevin was the top debater for a good long while. Now, Sam's style did work. However, there was a downside to it, and this will get a little bit more personal. In my second year of debate, I was finally deciding, I kind of like this, I am doing well. I have broken every year I've done it. I have always had a good run, but this was the worst and the best round that I ever had. Now, the worst round started out as a quarterfinal round. I have never made it to the quarterfinals before that, and it was a big deal. However, this round takes place at like 8 p.m. at night, so you're really tired. But I was up against Sam, and Sam's attitude was very scary because he was like irritated. And I know I beat out like one of his good friends. I beat her out in the round before then, which nobody expected because she's a good varsity and I was like not. So we're in this round and I'm sitting there thinking, I've debated him before. I can handle this. It'll be fine. I will be control. I will be the epitome of class. It'll be great. And so I started my first speech out, which is pre-scripted, and I knew the judges were listening. There were 5 of them. I knew the judges were listening. This is going great. He gets up for cross-ex, and he's not the tallest guy, but he's way taller than me. And he also wears this wonderful suit that's like navy, and we have to wear, debate clothes like I was wearing in the first part of this video. But he had like a bow tie, and he looks very, very classy. His hair is very big, and it like goes up like that. I don't know how to describe that, but throughout the round, it kind of just fell forward because he was that intense. But he gets up, and he's like asking me these questions, and it's about free and fair trade. Who can get passionate about free and fair trade? It's so boring. But he gets up there, and he's like, boom, 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 questions. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the Spanish Inquisition has nothing to do with trade. And I said that. And he was like, obviously you don't know about your history and like everything he was saying. And I'm just sitting there like, this is not the Sam I'm used to debating. So I go back to the table and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I have to come back to this. I have to answer all these questions that he said I didn't know how to answer. And he wouldn't give me the time to answer my questions either. He would if I even tried to inject a sentence, he would go, this is a yes or no question. Answer my yes or no. Or no question. So that was the first cross-ex, which is cross-examination question time. And then the second, his speech was normal, but he was extremely passionate. And not a good passionate, yeah, sort of passion, believe me or die sort of thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? Who's this passionate at 8 p.m.?
And then I get up to cross-examine. I'm like, I'm going to steal back the audience. I am going to be the epitome of class, and I'm going to be Kevin. I'm going to be Kevin. That was my goal. And I get up there, and the first question goes, are you sure you have enough time for me to answer this? Now, we have 3 minutes. And yeah, I am glad it looks like he was concerned for my time, but really he was using it up by asking that question. He is wasting 10 seconds, 20 seconds. He is wasting my time. I was like, yeah. And so then throughout the round, every single time I asked a question, he would ask that one. And then he would I don't think you really understand. And I was, oh my gosh. So as the round progressed, I was shaken up. I was legitimately shaken. He not only attacked my arguments, but he attacked me as a debater, and that's something that nobody in NCFCA actually wants. We are supposed to treat each other with respect, and that was not true. That was not how the round went. And so I was in prep time before my last speech, which is 3 minutes, and I'm just sitting there looking out the window I am losing this debate round. I am gonna cry. The only way I can get out of this with any sense of respect for myself is if I don't cry. That was my goal. And I got up there and I gave the speech, and it was horrible. I used analogies, I got lost in my words, but that's because I was so flabbergasted at what he was doing. And he was sitting at the table and I was just, oh my gosh. And then afterwards I had to shake his hand and say, good round. I was like, this isn't a good round. This wasn't a good round. But I shook the judges and I didn't cry. And he was like, may I see your evidence? Afterwards I'm like, there's nothing wrong with my evidence. So I gave him my evidence, and he looked it over, trying the intimidation factor to get me to back out, because if you find a flaw in your opponent's evidence, you can bring them to evidence check and get them disqualified. So that's what he was trying to do. I could have gotten him disqualified for his behavior, but I didn't know that. And so my older sister, Bella, took great care of me. She took me out of the room, she put me in a side room, and she closed the door, and I just started sobbing. And my family came up, and I saw him walk by, and he looked back, and I hid myself because I didn't want him to know I was crying. I got out of the room, and I went downstairs to the hangout where these wonderful people, 3 girls from my club were standing, and they were the only ones remaining from my club at the time because everybody had gone home because it was 8:45 by now. And they were like, what's wrong? Oh, yeah. And so they crowded around me. They hid me from all the other clubs, and I'm just sitting there sobbing so bad. And that night, all we could talk about was that round, because my parents were in the round. My friends were in the round, but nobody stood up for me other than my parents and my family. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. And I didn't want to go back the next day, because the next day I obviously wasn't going to break, so I wasn't going to debate the entire next day. It was just for awards and, speech maybe, possibly. So I get in the room the next morning, and I look over, beep that out. I look over, and Sam is standing there, and he looks at me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's there. So I ducked into my club, and then he came over and he pulled me over and he said, I am so sorry. I was dealing with a lot of stress, and I should not have taken that out on you. I know my actions were wrong, and I am willing to accept any way the judges went on that round, and I just want to know if you'll be able to forgive me. And I was like, I don't want to forgive you. It really hurt. But I said, yeah, I forgive you. And he was like, okay. And he gave me a hug. And then he walked me back to my club, because we had walked away. He walked me back to my club, and then he went back to his. And I was like, okay, well, he apologized. I still kind of hoped I won, just so he would lose something, just so he wouldn't do that again. But he won. And all of the judges wrote on their ballots, disorderly conduct. He got a 1. There's 5 speaker points based on, how you treat others, how you speak, how your persuasiveness is, and he got a 1 on how you treat others. He deserved it. But that was the lowest point of my debate career, because I was legitimately terrified to go back for regionals. I didn't want to debate the entire time. I literally had, a panic before the first debate round. And God was looking out for me in that first debate round, because he gave me the bye. The bye is something where you don't debate because there's an odd number of debaters. And if you get the bye in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round, or 6th round, you're not doing very well. But the first and second one, you're fine. So I got in the first round, and I was like, I got more time to compose myself. Second round, I debated a friend. Third round, I debated Sam. And I walked up to Sam. We were in the second round, so we had 45 minutes before our round. I walked up to Sam, and I'm like, so, we're debating. And he's like, I promise I'll be good. His mom walks up, and she's the regional director, but anyway, she walks up and she goes, okay, kids, we're going to be nice, we're going to be civil, and we're going to just be nice, he turned beet red. And I'm like, oh my gosh, don't embarrass him. But he was so wonderful. He was chivalrous. I had to go to the bathroom before the round, and he literally waited. And now, here's a tactic for debate. If you go into your room before the other opponent, you look more organized. But he waited, so we walked in together, even though we were both late. He was great. I lost the round. And that's okay. I was never going to win against him. But that's kind of what not to do. It's kind of my horror story. I know that is also my best round because I stood there, I didn't cry, I didn't back down. I literally wanted to run out of that room, and I would have if I didn't have any self-control. So that is my debate story. In my third year, I came back, and I'm sitting there like, I love debate. I don't know why. I was only required to do it for 2 years. I was like, I love debate. I don't know why I love debate, but the feeling of formulating arguments in a round when I actually have arguments is wonderful. So I did my third year, and now I'm on my fourth year, and I'm like, I need to be Kevin. That's my goal this year. I want to have the persona of just being wonderful and nice to people and having control of the room at the same time. So that's my goal in debate. So I know this probably scares you now that you know that there are people like this who do debate, but it won't, because being the better debater is more important. Being the better friend is more important than being the better debater. And that's one thing I have learned through my years of debate. The pros and the cons of debate, I could tell you them all day long, but that story is honestly why I'm still doing debate. Because if I just had the wonderful ideas of breaking, going to nationals, which I've never been, but I'm going this year, going to nationals, what would I have learned from that? As my dad always says, you learn from losing rather than winning, and that's true. But that round is what's convinced me to keep doing debate throughout the rest of my life. And Sam is no longer doing debate. He graduated. But another reason you love debate, which is kind of like a little tag on at the end, friendship. Now, Sam and I were never close afterwards, but we weren't enemies. And throughout the rest of last year, he was very nice, and he protected my sister, and he and my older sister, they were kind of going at it, and he was very nice. Even though he was still aggressive and still Sam, he was chivalrous at the same time. Now, I have tons of friends in the NCFCA. I didn't originally, but last year I got out of my club shell. My club is great. We are the Omaha Knights. So if you want to check that out, I'm pretty sure there's a website. Just Google it. The Omaha Knights. And we are the nicest club, or at least we call ourselves the nicest club, because we don't debate with strategies. We go in and we debate with facts, we debate with logic, we debate with personas, but we don't debate with aggressiveness. And that's kind of our thing. And then we have the Kansas City Areopagus in Mars Hill. There's 2 different ones. Areopagus, I've got a lot of friends there. Some pretty close friends. And then Mars Hill, I have some great friends there as well. And then there's Missouri. I don't really know what their club is. They might not have a club. Dakota, no. There's a bunch of clubs. Minnesota. But debate and CFCA specifically, it provides a Christian outlook on politics. We are all very involved in politics. The political debates, I mentioned I was going to talk about those. With Trump and Biden, I believe that those were just like arguments. Like I said, they're just a bickerment. That wasn't an example of true debate. But with Harris and Pence, that was more of a debate, because they had time segments that they didn't always stick to, but they had time segments and they responded to arguments, and they kept it about the arguments. Trump and Biden went after each other. They went after their reputations. They went after each other as people. Well, Harris and Pence, while there was a little bit going after each other, they mostly went after the politics, and that was what we want to keep with debate. Going after the ideas, going after the examples, but not the person. So when you're thinking about debate, there's a few questions you need to ask yourself. Am I confident? If you answer yes, or if you answer no, you should do debate. Because if you're not confident, it's going to give you confidence. Am I a good speaker? If you answer yes, or if you answer no, you're going to learn. Because if you get in there and you are a good speaker, you're going to be excelled. You're going to do better. But you still have so much to learn. And if you get in there and you're not a good speaker, people are going to pick you up and they're going to help you formulate your verbiage, formulate your style, and that is something that debate always does. And next is, am I do I actually want to learn about politics? And now, if you do, this is a great place, but we don't talk about just politics. Like I said, we talked about free and fair trade. Now we are doing politics. But last year it was preventive war is ethical. And so we talk about war, we talk about privacy and security. There's just so many broad topics. We were going to talk about immigration, which I would have liked, but we chose a different resolution. So anyways, I hope you guys take this into account when you're thinking about doing debate, and I hope this story can inspire you to do a debate. There's definitely highs and there are definitely lows, but ultimately it's worth it.